Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Welcome to this week's episode. We got some good stuff planned, some good conversation, I'm sure. And as you can see, I changed my background and everything kind of this week. Just was playing around and thought I would just keep it simple. So hopefully none of y'all missed the solar system in the background. And the truth is that I've got it all taken apart and I'm putting together a new inverter out there, a new 10,000 watt inverter. So I wanted to kind of keep it a surprise, so I didn't do it there. So I hope everyone's doing well. Let me see if I can. Oh, hey Amy, how are you? Glad to see you back. Oh, you're welcome for all the great videos. It's been a pleasure making videos. I tell you what, lately I've been on a roll, haven't I? I've got a couple of really good ones in the works too. I'm telling you, there are some really good stuff. I'm not even sure where I am in the list of videos coming out. Let's see if I can figure it out here real quick. Let's see which ones you've seen. So we have the content of, oh, that's not even the right screen. Let me see here. Holy cow. 22,644 subscribers. You guys, you amaze me. You really do. It just amazes me. The growth just continues. So let's see what we got coming out in videos. Oh yeah, we've got 3 of them lined up. 3 really, well, I would say probably 2 really good ones and one decent one. But yeah, the solar tester, that was the last one. I don't know if you just saw that. And hey, Mike, good to see you, man. How you doing? And good to see you here. Glad to have you back. And Amy, it was plug and play, but the rabbits are so happy with their solar hutch. Ah, good. Well, hey, plug and play is plug and play, but you know, that's where the world is coming. It's getting more and more automated every day. Now they've gone to those all-in-ones, and they've got to these little stations that they've got and everything, but the only downside to the plug and play ones is a lot of them aren't really expandable. But if you're buying them for a specific unit, you don't mind paying a little bit for the convenience, then more power to you. I mean, there's a lot of really good ones. Which one did you end up getting? Be interested to hear about that. And I've got this interesting list of content this week. Basically, I'm going to talk a lot about lowering your electric bill with solar. I want to go in and talk about some of the techniques that I think people should use that are overlooked. And you know, you just reminded me, Amy, of another video that I don't have on that list that I did. I talked with another guy the other day about another review of solar. Some guy who bought some solar had a horrible time with the solar company, and I felt so bad doing the interview because it was just a train wreck. These solar companies, they're just, some of them are embarrassments and stuff like that. And Mike, know you're here. I want to put out just a quick little thing here for Mike. Talk about if I can find out how to do it. I've lost track of everything. Here you go. Mike's Solar Forum. There's a scan code on the screen. If you haven't joined, I suggest you do so. It's a good little forum he's got out there. Lots of good little content and questions and answers. If you have a problem, you can get to that. So, Mike, I appreciate it. Your last couple weeks of being here was tons of fun, and I'm sure that we'll come up with something on a more regular basis for us. And we'll figure that out as we go. But Mike's got a really good channel also, so if you haven't seen that, you should probably go out and take a look at that also. He's a good guy. And let's see what we got here. We got newbie here, just sat to learn a free My clay electric bill in California. Oh yeah, California has the worst electric rates in the world, Martin. They're just terrible there. Unfortunately, you've got all the regulations that fight you too. So they push you to pay more, and then they fight you on you paying less, and they make it difficult for you to get solar. Now, on the bright side, if you do some of the suggestions I'll have on the first couple levels, I'm going to go through a couple of levels of different ways you can fight back against electric bills tonight, all the way from from just basic newbie starting to start to try to trim some of it off, all the way up to full house type things. And for any of you that are interested, I keep the widgets, the little icons here. So this is a complete parts list of all the systems that I talk about, or any suggestions that I have. And for those of you who are not aware of the short that came out this morning, the battery review for Watt Cycle comes out tomorrow morning. And they were sold out, and I delayed the release till tomorrow morning so that they could at least take pre-orders for delivery later this month. That is one hot, really nice battery. Mike, I know we talked about that a little bit last week. The testing on that thing is just fantastic. I ran it at 100 amp test straight through, and it pulled 317 amp hours. It's just a beast, all by itself. Shut down the 6000 XP, and it was just an incredible test. But that's a beast of a battery. But you'll find that in that QR code also, the link to it out there. And if you're looking to expand your home battery system, in my video I show you just how simple it is to add to your collection. Anyway, so Martin, yeah, you'll pick up a couple of things here. I don't know what kind of regulations you guys have out there in California, but they just seem to make it more and more difficult. It's like they're doing this all over the place, and I'm not sure I understand exactly why they're making it so difficult for some of us. I understand the safety reasons, and I have no problem with safety regulations and stuff like that. But some of the stuff that they do has nothing to do with safety. It's, these jurisdictions, they just gotten out of control, and they're making things more and more difficult for everybody, even when it isn't a safety issue. And that's the part that irritates me. And like I said, I honestly, and you've seen it on all of my beginner videos, that whole series of beginning videos, the last 4 or 5, I put a warning out there of, just because we're DIY, and I truly believe this, just because we're DIY doesn't mean we're sloppy, messy, dangerous builds. You still have to take the right precautions. You still need to build within the right specs. You still need to make sure that you're following the regulations. A lot of them are there for safety purposes. I have no issue with them whatsoever. Some of them are there to keep the firefighters safe, and some of them don't make any sense whatsoever, but some of them really do. So it's important that you learn the right way to do things, but at the same time, DIY does make it a bit easier. In a lot of jurisdiction, I know here in Florida, if you are the actual owner of the home that you're working on, you are capable of doing your own work and doing your own electrical work and your own plumbing work and stuff like that. That does not mean you are exempt from getting permits in certain places and certain types of things, but there's so many. I get this question a lot too, is what kind of requirements do I have in my area? And to be honest with you, there are more jurisdictions than I have answers for. It can be anything from you're completely able to do anything you want, all the way up to nothing is different for you. You're not allowed to do anything. You have to call an electrician and have him do everything. Unfortunately, for you, Martinez, the chances are that you're probably on the further extreme side of that than we are here in Florida. But there are almost always ways around some things, so hopefully you'll find some ways. And I'd love to hear about it when you do decide to do something, what that's going to be. Let me see, you've still got some more comments here. Oh, Mike, you're always welcome, and you're always welcome here. We get to I'd love to talk about, I don't even know what to talk about at this point with another schedule, but we'll come up with something. Someone said, I can use a trailer. Is that true? Make it mobile. In a lot of cases, the mobile aspect of it does get you around code. It does here in Florida. It gets you around a lot of the code restrictions. So you can put an item in a trailer and you could use it. A lot of people, I've seen this even done for bit mining, where they put the power and the solar in the trailer. Now, the upsides and downsides to it. The upside to it is yes, you get around some of the electrical part. The problem is you have a limited amount of solar you can put on a trailer, but it still comes down to your restrictions in your area. You're still going to have to do some homework to really find out what they allow there. I know here in Florida, mobile is practically exempt from it now. That doesn't mean, I'm not saying be dangerous. Please don't ever interpret anything that I say as you should do this yourself and forget about electricians and blah, blah, blah. I have never in a million years will I say that. There are times when you need the professional help, and if you're not comfortable doing it yourself, then you should always go to that professional help to get it. So please be safe and be careful, and always follow the proper precautions. But mobile is a good option for some of that. And I don't know how. There are some jurisdictions that have it around temporary setting things too, and testing things and stuff like that you can get around. There's other places where if you're a home installer, as long as the panels are not on the roof and not on a dwelling, and then they define dwelling as a place that someone actually lives, and therefore a shed don't count. I've seen places like that. But I've also seen them where you can't put up a yard mount, you can't put up a shed mount, you can't put up a house mount, you can't do any of that without a permit. And then they want engineering drawings, and they want, all kinds of things. And a lot of those things sound a lot more daunting than they are. You can get to them, and you can, a lot of them you can do yourself, or you can, if you find out what they're asking for, you can do it yourself, because a lot of states have the restriction and have the account for DIYers being at your house that you can do that. In other words, in most locations, if a wall outlet goes out, you're allowed to replace it without calling an electrician. Believe it or not, there are some places where you're not allowed to put in a wall outlet, where you have to call an electrician, especially if you live in an apartment complex or something like that. A lot of those will not allow anything of that nature. So you're going to have to, unfortunately, there's just not a whole lot of way around it other than doing some homework and figuring out what your area is. Generically, if I had to say, I would say most places you can do most of the work yourself, and you're still going to be required to get some level of permitting for some things. Certainly for panels on a house of any kind, you're going to almost always need some kind of permitting. But sometimes they can exempt things like mobile. Sometimes you can get yard mounts and put them up in the yard. And so it just depends. And so you'll have to play around with that. Is it true that I can have a solar equipment in a trailer? And I think that's the same question that you have there. But yes, obviously you can put solar equipment in a trailer. I just built a coffee trailer that is completely off-grid. My wife can now go. She can set up, and I think the video for that comes out, when does that video come out? That video comes out on the 9th, where I did the second half of that one, where it's dual inverters, full parallel, full off-grid. She can use the espresso machine, the coffee maker, everything, just like we had a generator plugged in. It's really cool. Matter of fact, it's better than the generator because the surge power is better than the generator. And not only that, on the generator, it was 240 split phase for 7,000 watts. And with this one, it's pure 6,000 watts and it's shared. And it's very rare that I get anywhere near 6,000 watts when I combine everything on one string. It's the split phase that was getting me where I would have one or two devices that were high usage kick on at the same time, and it would cause it, like the espresso machine would be running and the coffee pot would start warming up and she'd turn on a blender, and that would cause the generator to shut off and stuff, which is part of the reason that I did the build in the first place. Is I wanted to be able to have her go places and do things without me being there to just maintain electricity. Simple things like a generator of, you have to go out, you have to shut it off, you have to turn it back on, you have to start it, you have to plug it back in, blah, 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 blah. So a lot of that was solved that way. Hopefully that helps. The answer is probably, but I can't definitively answer it because every place is different. But I would suspect that mobile is an exception, especially in RVs, trailers, that kind of thing. And the nice thing is that you can use that to power things with like extension cords and stuff like that. So you could use it for that. Also, let me go back to that before I go to Amy's. Also, you can do temporary setups. In other words, portable setups is almost as legal. So I've got like a build your fridge link that I'll do here, which is like a beginner solar system. I'll put out the link for that. Keep your refrigerator running. This link has a solar class that shows you how to build a little bitty portable 2,000 watt system. It's a 24 volt system that can run like a refrigerator and TVs and stuff like that. And it's also the very first starting level of a cheap, small system under, for less than the price of a big, than one of those off-grid, what do they call those things? Jeez. For less than the price of one of those power stations, one of the solar generators, you can build this, and it's got expandable, so you can add batteries to it, and it costs about half of what one of them would run. But the nice thing is it gives you the ability to either build the whole thing DIY with step-by-step directions of exactly how to lay it out, how to build the cables and stuff. And then if you don't want to build the cables, I also do have a wiring kit where you can just order it, and I ship you the cables, and then you just put it together. But you'll learn all there is to learn about it. But a lot of the portable ones are also exempt from having code restrictions, and that's even more so than having the trailer and stuff like that. All right, so let's see what we got here. Amy says 12 watt, 12 volt panels, 20 watt, 12 volt panel to 232 RPM fans, working voltage 5 to 10 Chinese. Oh, so you just did a direct fan running voltage and no battery, nothing like that. That's a wonderful idea for fans for chicken coop. I mean, you don't really need anything. You don't need anything on the AC side for certain. You might be able to even get, if you're talking 12 volt like that there, you might even be able to get some of those, the little 12 volt battery to just, store a little bit in there, but you're probably going to need to, yeah, I don't know. You might even be better off because the only time you need it to run is when the sun is out and it's hot. So that may have been the best thing for you. It's a good little solution, Amy. I look forward to hearing how it works for you. It's one of those that just kind of run when you go. Let's see, we got Zig here. Zig, ZA Ground Zero. Thanks for the reply on the VOC and the puck run issue. Solar panels, CW215, got it figured out. Oh, good news. And I think that was the one where you were trying to figure out how many that could go in parallel and stuff like that. So wonderful news there. I'm glad you got the answer you were looking for. If you're running into any more issues, just let me know. I'll be glad to help. And Martin, there we go, Martin. Oh man, you're always welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. Let's see. Do you have any recommendations for solar mini split that does it come with battery, or do I need to have a battery just for the main split to keep it going at night? So the ones that I have seen that are really truly have solar with them, as opposed to a mini split and a solar system. I haven't used any of the ones that are purely solar, only because they have dedicated panels that supplement power coming from the outlet. So during the day when it's the hottest, it generates enough power to do that. But the problem that I have with that is when your air conditioner doesn't run enough to use all that power, it just goes into vaporware, goes away, and it's just gone. And then it uses the grid to supplement it at night and stuff like that. So my preferred method there is to, I wish they would come out with some good DC window units, or other than, they've got some DC units for RVs, but I'm talking about some actual DC units for windows and stuff like that. So we could build a solar system that had a battery and then use the battery to run the air conditioner. And especially nowadays with these 280 amp hour and 300 and 314 amp hour 12 volt batteries, we could easily run a nice little solar air conditioner off of one of them, and then we would have it 24/7 based on the power. And you'd add a couple of extra panels to supplement for the night running. But no, the ones that I have seen is they basically, what am I saying here? So the ones that I have seen, they basically come with, let me see if I can actually pull one up here. Let me see if I can find one here. I'm going to go over here to, I know solar powered coolers. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Oh, that's not the cooler I'm looking for. Hold on a minute. I'm getting there. Okay. Here's the, oh, I got to share the screen. Sorry about that. Let me get my screen shared for you here. Let's do share screen. We want, this one, I think. All right, so I should be able to flip that to this and add this to it. Okay, so I'm going to show you here. So like they have, the EG4 has these hybrid mini splits where they are exactly what you're saying. They have the, I want to see the specs is what I'm looking for. So they accept up to 1,100 watts of solar power for off-grid day. You notice it says here off-grid daytime operations. And what that means is that there is no battery, there is no any of that type of stuff connected to it. It just supplements the power consumption coming from the grid that you need to run it normal. And you'll notice here it says hybrid, runs on solar DC or AC power, or both, with intelligent auto switching. And that part's really cool. So they're very efficient in the fact that they don't take a whole lot of electricity during the day to run your air conditioner. I just think that if you're going to go to all that trouble, install a mini split, plug it into a little solar system, and have the battery capability also, and that allows you to put in an extra panel or whatnot and to handle it that way. So that's what I see Uh, DIY friendly installation, 16 feet pre-vacuum line set. So that part's really cool because the ones that I installed on the RV, I had to buy a vacuum kit and you have to hook the lines up and then you got to vacuum the lines and all of that. So these come with pre-vacuumed lines so that you can just, when you connect them, they pop a seal right there at it and you don't have to do any of the vacuuming or anything like that. So they're very user friendly. But they're at the same time, they don't have any type of storage device. So if you're looking for an air conditioner to cool just during the day and possibly have grid power after that, then this is what you're looking for. If you're looking for something that's going to be able to cool 24 hours a day based on a solar input stored in a battery, there isn't one. You're going to have to build a solar system to collect the power and store it, and then feed that power, plug that unit into that solar system. And that would be the suggestion I have there. And then, you know, as we start getting into some of these systems, there are quite a few of them. You don't have to get too deep to run a nice, efficient mini split. You know, most mini splits can run on 8 to 10 kilowatt hours a day. If you plan on 10 to 15, then you're in pretty good shape. And that means, you know, one new big size type battery, or you know, three of the 100 amp hour rack batteries, and you have a system that can run your air conditioner nonstop without any problems whatsoever. And I did that on my RV. I had two of them, and I ran with both of them, and one at night while we were sleeping down at like 62 degrees, and one all day long. Now I had 3,700 watts of solar panels on the roof. I had 10 370 watt panels up there that were mounted flat that would pull in a lot of energy every day. So I was able to run completely off grid and run my air conditioner 24/7. Never had a problem, never even thought about it, to be honest with you. So that's the alternative, is you can do that. Now, as you get into some of the bigger mini splits, so if you wanted to cool your house or something like that, you can buy the 240 units, the bigger units, instead of the, you know, the 8K units, 8 BTUs or the 12 BTUs. You can get into some of the 240 split phase units, and you can buy an inverter that does that, and they are much more efficient. So if you're trying to cool a house or something, you can get a multi-head one. Now, you're going to pay for the air conditioners, but the efficiency rating of them goes up, making it even more efficient. It's a shame at this point that they don't have units like this one here that allow you to feed that DC power from the battery directly in and run it off of DC without that grid, or not that grid, without that AC power conversion, because that power conversion contributes to your losses. You know, it's about 18% total if you're taking it from solar into a battery and out of a battery into AC and into your air conditioner. But my guess is if we could eliminate that inverter, we probably could save another 7 or 8%. So it would only be a 10 or 11% loss as opposed to 18, which would be a significant gain. So that would be what I would like to see. Whether or not that's what these companies are going to do for us, that is another question altogether. If you're looking if you want to look at that device to see, you know, to see prices and everything, I'll put the parts list up here on the screen over on this side, and you just follow that scan code, or it's mattmansolar.com/start, and you can go just to any of the signature solar links and just look under there. They have high efficiency appliances, and the air conditioners are in there, and that'll help you out. Hopefully that answers all your questions, or hopefully that gives you a lead into more questions. Either way. Amy says it runs with the sun. Yes. So it only runs with the sun is out. But that's kind of what you really needed, if I understand. I mean, you're talking about a chicken coop. So if it's cool outside, if the sun's not shining, you really don't need it to run. At least I wouldn't think so. And my knowledge about raising chickens is about this big. So If that's wrong, please let me know. It's a very interesting concept, though. I don't think it would take much of a solar system, though, to run a couple of fans. If they're running on 5, let me go back and find that comment that you had there. You said they were running, here it is, 20 watt, 12 volt panel to 3200 RPM fans. Working voltage 5 to 12 volt Chinese. So those are just the little case fans and stuff you get they even have the bigger ones now that are like 12 volts. So those are just little fans that the fan, does it amp up as the voltage starts to climb? Does it speed up and slow down with the sun is more and more intense or not, whatnot? That's actually kind of cool. But they do have, would almost be plug and play for you here. They do have, like, trickle chargers that you can plug directly to a battery that you don't have to worry about charge controllers or anything. You could charge the batteries with that, and then you could have the fans just run straight off of the battery. The only thing you might need to deal with is low voltage shutoff, but that shouldn't be too difficult to manage and figure out. Anyway, where were we at here? So it was down here under, we run under the sun. Okay. Cold storage device to be added to the mini split. Could storage device be added to the mini? Well, to the mini split itself, no. But to build a system that could power it is quite simple. Matter of fact, just that I still have the parts list up there. If you just scan that or go to mattmansolar.com/start, you go down to, let me just see if I can, let me see if I can take you to there. Let's just go there ourselves. So we just go to mattman/start. All right, so this page just basically has all of my links, all of my codes, all of my discount codes and everything on it. You don't have to go looking around and every video and find every video for it. So everything new that I have that comes out, I always post it in here. Like the new watt cycle battery that comes out tomorrow morning with 6% discount code, QR codes there, the battery's already listed, everything's good. But one of the systems that you could certainly build, you don't need anything as big as this, but to build your own portable power station, something along the lines of something like this, with a 280 amp hour life cycle battery, would run an air conditioner quite swimmingly. I mean, even regardless of which inverter. I mean, I think I've got a couple of different inverters here that's listed around this, and depending on what type of battery you're going to want. Now, with an air conditioner, you're going to need a little bit more power, so you may need to run a couple of you may need a couple of batteries, because you're going to need, if you're going to be running 24/7 and you need some time off, you're going to need 10 to 15 kilowatt hours of battery power. So, but the nice thing about that is then you could also, run a TV or something like that if you ever needed to when the power was out. You could look at, and so a lot of that depends there. There is, at the very top, there's a wiring diagram up here for diagram for keeping your refrigerator running. That would be a really good start for this. It's big enough to run your air conditioner. The only thing you need to do is add more batteries to supply enough backup power for it. Everything else should work just fine for that. I'm thinking it has 800 in that build, exactly as followed, as designed in that course. It shows 800 watts of solar panel. You might need to increase that a bit to accommodate, depending on where you live and how much power you can get in from that. You might want to do it to accommodate that, but that's where I would go to it. And this one will send you, if you just follow that diagram for keep the refrigerator running, it'll send you a free diagram, and then there's a whole course on it. And the course is like, I think I've been doing some shows, so I've got a show discount on it right now. I think it's like $70 for the whole course, and every single part. I mean, you go to Amazon and click, 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 and hit order, and everything's shipped, and you don't have to worry about anything. And even so much so as if you don't want to build the wires, I do that for you too. That's been very, very popular. And if you're at a place where I'm at a show and I'm going to be there, and you just want one, you don't want to actually build it, just let me know, and I put them together for people all the time and bring them to shows and let you pick them up there. I will be this weekend. I am in just north of Orlando. I'll post the show here a little later tonight or tomorrow. We just found out today that we were going, so you're more than welcome. Yeah, take a look. Let me know if you run into anything or if any questions come up or anything like that. I'll be glad to answer those. And wow, how time flies when I'm in this live stream. It's 36 minutes in and I haven't even started. So that's okay. We answered a lot of questions. Oh, you're always more than welcome. That is why I do the live streams, is for this interaction. If I could come here and just answer chats all night long, I would. I usually plan content like this simply because I don't want to come here and just stare at an empty screen where there's nothing else to say. So please, all the feedback and comments, keep them coming. I love it. This is my favorite part of everything I do with YouTube, is the interaction with you guys. And weeks like last week and the week before, where I have Mike from Mike's Solar Garage here and stuff like that. Those are all just fantastic, fun times. So let's get started. And this goes for anyone who has a comment. Please, at any time, interject, ask questions. Off subject, doesn't matter. If it's solar related, it's open territory. I never restrict the comments. If it's about another video I have, about another video somebody else has, all of it. Open game, don't worry about it. I will always answer the questions and keep you guys first, because this is the part that I really, truly enjoy on this, doing this. Yeah. Do you have a list of up-and-coming shows in California? Oh, I wish I had a list of up-and-coming shows in California. We're doing more and more shows, and we just launched this summer's list of shows. I go around, I show people how to do, how to build, get involved in DIY solar. I promote the class that I just pointed you at, which is at mattmansolars.com/build, or it's that QR code that I had on the screen. And if at any time I'm hoping to be able to, and there's the link again for that. I'm hoping to be able to expand that. I've been scheduling more and more home reviews where I go into people's homes. I look at the solar system they have, whether it's DIY or commercially bought, and I basically go through their system. I do a review of their system. I give them advice on things to fix. Like this past week, I had a guy who had a solar system that he had installed. He was curious about panels and how much power they were bringing in, why things weren't working. His batteries weren't holding charge all the way until the very end. So I went in and I kind of evaluated it. And then I gave him a list of things that I would do to make things better. Some of them, a majority of his problems were configurations issues and didn't cost him anything above and beyond me being there. I come in for a couple of hours, and I thought I had a link for it, but I guess I don't. I come in for a couple of hours, and you can find it on the website. It's at the top of the parts build. I come in for do a complete review of your system. Make a bunch of suggestions. We change some configurations and try to make things better for you. A lot of the times there's additional things that you need done. I can come back and do some of them, and some of them I can't do. I'll have to refer you to somebody else. But I've been doing that while I'm traveling and scheduling different appointments, and then scheduling events while I'm at those appointments. So if you're interested in something like that, let me know. But California is a tough one, unfortunately, because I don't get out there that far yet. All right. So let's get started with talking a little bit about level one, what I call start small. I think it's extremely important for everyone getting into solar to start small. And the reason being is that you're going to spend a ton of money building a system. And even a basic system like the one I'm talking about, the DIY starter one. I mean, you're talking about between the panels, and if you followed everything in that lesson, that book, my class, letter for letter. It ends up being about $1,500 for a system that can run a refrigerator, keep it running when the power's out, perpetually forever as long as there's some level of sun. You have about a day and a half or 2 days of autonomy where you can run that refrigerator even when there is no sun. So the idea here is to build a system first that allows you to learn all the different components, the parts, and before you build the system you think you want, learn a lot. People learn so much in the first 6 months of having a solar system. I can't even tell you, even in this year, I can't count on one hand the number of people that have scheduled one-on-ones with me to talk about a system that's for their RV or talk about a system that's for their house that's basically, I want to go out and go boondocking and I don't need anything but a coffee pot and a light, or I don't need anything but blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, but you know, I suggest you really think about some of the things you're saying you can rough it without. And some of them listen, and most of them thank me for it later. Missy is one of those people. She loves her system now. I don't know if Missy's here, but if you are, Missy, hello. Then there is other ones that don't listen, and I'm glad to help them. But then once they get the solar, they realize, you know, for a couple of extra dollars or for a couple of little bit more thinking or planning, I could have done this or I could have done that. I could live without this, live without that. But unless you have the experience with solar, you don't really know that yet. So my suggestion is start small. I'm trying to stay somewhat on subject here. It'll show you all the basic components. I always talk about the 4 basic components. It'll talk to you about the battery. It'll talk to you about the charge controller. It will talk to you about the solar panels, and it will talk to you about the inverter. Those are the 4 basic components of a solar system, unless you're like Amy, where she's only running DC fans, and then you don't need the inverter. So then you have 3 basic components in a system like that. You probably, if you weren't running it pure solar like her, which is kind of cool, you probably would want some kind of either voltage switch or timer switch where you could turn it off and on at certain hours or certain temperatures. I think about that, you know, Amy, I had in my coffee trailer, I haven't hooked it back up, but there was a little device, it's probably about this big, that has, it's a temperature gauge. And it basically takes 12 volt power and turns it off and on based on the temperature. And that would be ideal for a chicken coop, because then you could set the temperature for when you want it to come on. It would charge the batteries even in the morning when the sun's coming up and it's not hot yet, but then it would turn on when it needed to. And then if it was still warm throughout the day till 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock at night, it would shut off in the evening when it got... That sensor is really good. I bought that on Amazon. It was a cheap little 12 volt type thing. I had to buy a step down for it because at the time my solar coffee trailer was 24 volts and I had to step it down to 12 volts. Now it's 48 volts and I have to step it down to 12, which is why I haven't hooked it back up yet. But that kind of came to mind as I thought about it. Where was I going? Okay, so the first thing I suggest is power something. Whether that's your entertainment center, start to cut your bill by pick a device. Whether you want to, and something that's not critical, something that you can screw up, or you can be working on your system, and if you still want to watch it, let's say you decide you're going to take your entertainment center. You're going to have your cable modem and your TV and all of that. You build a small little system. You know, the perfect example is the one for the refrigerator would work perfect for that. It's a small little system, but it's big enough to run all of that equipment and to allow you to shave that off of your electric bill so you're never going to be paying for it anymore. But more importantly, from this small system, instead of just saving the money on the electric bill, you're learning solar. You're learning all the components. You're learning the things that you would like to have. You're learning the automation tools. You're learning the connections. You're learning how to build things. And this isn't any different than anything else. Today, when you build your system and when you design it, you're going to know less than you ever will know again. And therefore, you're the least qualified today to build that system than you will ever be in the future. So it's important that you take it slow first. I'm not saying that if you want to do a full house backup that you shouldn't do a full house backup. I'm saying before you do a full house backup, take a couple of months, spend a few $100 or $1,000 to find out all the components, how they work, what they really generate. And when you first time you plug in devices thinking, oh, this is 1,000 watts and I got a 1,000-watt inverter and the inverter won't run it, you'll start to realize that just because something says it can do something doesn't mean it can do it. And those are the type of things that are so invaluable when you're building a $15,000 or a $20,000 or a $30,000 house system, to understand what you can run with what you're buying and what you can't run. But sometimes it's not as easy to just answer those questions unless you have that experience. So, and that's where a lot of people will ask someone like me or educate themselves by building a system in trial and error, or grow their system up and do it. And this happens for all of us. For example, right now I'm debating on how much would it take in the case of a hurricane to plug my house into the solar shed as it's built today. How much would I be able to run? I got a 3-ton air conditioner. I think it would start my air conditioner just fine. I don't think I would have any problems with it. But I don't think that if I turned on the oven or the stove, the oven and the stove are the same thing, the oven, the stove, or the hot water heater, and had it running, that it would work. So those are the kind of things you want to play with and you want to understand before you spend all the money on the equipment, and understand how much do you really need? How do you really measure power? How much autonomy do you need? In other words, how long does this system need to function before you run out of power? And I can tell you, if you build a system and you use it, you will learn more in the next 3 months than all the videos that you've watched ever. It will be so educational because you'll need to solve specific problems. You'll go out, you'll find those problems, and you'll really figure out how to fix them. And that's going to be the most educational thing. So that's the first thing. The first thing that I can suggest to save money is to start by picking something in your house, whether it's a refrigerator, whether it's a freezer in your garage. A lot of people build that system, they plug it in the refrigerator in their garage, and they let it run the refrigerator, and the refrigerator in the garage never power out again. But more importantly, they never pay for power for it again. And when something goes wrong with it, the grid's still there for them to plug it into to test it. If you do your TV and something goes wrong and blah, 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 you always have the option of unplugging it and plugging it in. But when the disaster does strike, or when the need for that system to really be there, you'll be thankful you understand exactly what those limits are, exactly what you can run. One of the perfect example of that is every year, without fail, I pull the generators out of the shed. I run them, and I run everything off them for a full day to understand how much power can I generate from them. What am I going to be able to run? What am I going to be able to do? Now, I don't push it to where I'm pushing it now. Now I'm thinking, I want to know, what is it going to take to really run my house completely without it? Can I get my grid-tied system to operate with an off-grid inverter properly where there's no grid, safely where the grid isn't considered? And those are all things to consider when you're building it. So that's my first thing, is the build something that does a fridge, build something that runs a TV, build something that, even if you don't do AC, build something that makes your reading light in your living room. Your air conditioner, which was Martinez was asking earlier, build something to run your air conditioner, but start small. That's level one. That's what I see as the most important thing, is learn first, then implement. And learn first by getting involved in it and understanding it. When I first got started, I went out and bought a whole bunch of Chinese junk. And the funny thing is I still have And I keep it for a namesake. I'm going to walk away from the camera right here and go dig in a little box that I have over here. I keep it for a namesake because it reminds me of the Chinese junk that you don't want to buy and what the consequences of it can be. But it was a small enough system that it didn't cost me any real financial problems. But this is my first endeavor into a small... Wow, that is just terrible. Why can't you show that? That is a completely and totally burned out terminal. And I learned that these that you put the wire in one side and you crimp it down, that no matter how much you crimp this down, no matter what you do to these, they're never going to be able to support enough heat to actually do it. The back of this is all melted out. It's all burned out. The wire was all crusted in there. And we're talking about wire that was marine grade 1-aught wire, and it wasn't even running 60 amps. And it did this to this Chinese junk. So that's why it's important on small systems. Don't skip the safety. Build something small that you can monitor, you can watch, and you can safely learn from. All right. I want to go up here real quick and look at some of these comments that I missed. Do you have a list of up-and-coming shows in California? I think we already talked about that. Well, if you ever want to do a start from scratch home in California, I'm in. Well, you have a lot of restrictions out there. If you're looking for DIY, it's probably very difficult to find somebody in California. For companies doing solar, there's probably a ton of them out there. And unfortunately, I don't know any that I could refer you to in California. But if I run across one, I will certainly let you know. There is so much info out there. It's so much to learn. I want my house, son runs, quote me, 90,000 for another quote of 45,000. I know. And I put a grid tied system on my house here, and I have a video on my channel about it. And it was 56,000 before I knew what I was doing. By all means, do not do any of those quotes until you understand what you're actually buying. And if you really want to do one of them, I suggest that you hire someone that's unrelated to the actual thing. One of the big ones that I do all the time is I schedule a one-on-one. I just put a link up there, and I'll take the contract or the bid that they've given you, and we can review it together. We can go through it. I can say, look, did they think about this? Did they think about that? You know, this part, that part. This happens all the time. It's probably the best couple $100 you can spend. And I have never, ever, not once to this day, not walked away from one of these reviews where someone says, I'm so glad I did this. You saved me thousands in time and effort. So I encourage you, even if it's not me, I include my link, obviously, because that's one of the things that I do. But you can book these in an hour increments. And I think I've got them on, still got them marked down to only $100 an hour at this point. So it's a very reasonable. Online stuff is a little bit less expensive than the in-home reviews. But okay, so that's that. Yeah, and those prices are not, they're not even close to what a DIY system would be. You're probably, and most of them are going to be grid tied only and have no batteries, and they'll go out when the grid goes out. So it kind of defeats some of the purpose, not all of it. If you're strictly after deterring your electric bill, then it's not all of it. Where are we at here? Great advice. I can see that. Thanks. You're more than welcome. Mike says, very true. Learning by doing. Absolutely. And good to know. Thanks so much. You're more than welcome again. It's good you showed up this week. Got lots of good feedback for you. You should have me show every link I have. I'll just have to go through them one at a time. The coffee's a little bitter this week. It's good, but it's bitter. I wonder if I made it too strong. I'm not sure there's a such thing as too strong of coffee. I'll have to chase it down with a Mountain Dew afterwards. All right, let's talk about battery backup essentials. This is what I call level 2. I am reading from my list here. I created myself a little list so I could at least try to stay on target. 55 minutes in, I've only made it through level 1, but that's okay. When batteries start to make sense, essential loads, and what essential loads actually mean. So let's talk about this from the essential loads. In most cases, when you're talking about your power going out, for me, it's a hurricane. For some of you, it's tornadoes. If you live in the middle of the country, if it's California, it's blackouts, or it used to be. I don't know if you still have brownouts and blackouts out there. But everybody has times when the power goes out and it's problematic. In certain parts of the country, it's extremely dangerous. You're in Arizona and it's 115 degrees. Power going out is extremely dangerous. If you are in Florida and it's humid and it's hot and we have more elderly and all of that stuff, it can also be kind of dangerous. Tornadoes and stuff like that, they can tear neighborhoods apart, cause power outages, even if they're blocks away from you. Those main lines, those high voltage lines go down, thousands and thousands of homes suffer from outages. My endeavor into solar mostly came from going through a hurricane where I was out for 10 days. Now, everyone says, oh my God, 10 days, it was terrible. It was terrible, but I was very, very lucky. I had a generator because I had a food truck for my wife's coffee trailer there. I had prepped the food truck because we were about to leave on a long visit to a fair. And so I had 380 pounds of ice packed in a freezer in that trailer that had solar, that didn't actually have solar. I had ordered some solar components and it was plugged in. So I took the solar parts that I was going to use to make it operate off grid when it was parked in a parking lot at a fair to keep my ice frozen, and I put them all together. It's kind of funny. I should create a video about my history. I know me and Mike went over it last week, and I was thinking about that, Mike, when we did that last week, and I'm thinking that maybe I should go back and revisit that and build myself a video of what it was. It would be kind of interesting maybe for us both to do it again. We'll have a shared video about that. But anyway, essentials. What is important here is what a lot of people will do is they'll put in a second panel and they'll connect basically what they call the essential loads. And that means things like you hook the power to your house. So a lot of people will hook the generator to their house and but you won't run the big items. You don't run a hot water heater. If there's a disaster, yeah, hot water might be nice to have a shower, but it's not going to keep you alive. You can live without it. The air conditioner, you may or may not have a plug that has a window unit for a single room or a mini split for a single place in your house to keep it safe. Medical equipment, refrigeration to keep medical supplies, medicines, and a lot of those medicines, I know I have diabetes and I have diabetic medicine that has to stay refrigerated. If it doesn't, it becomes not useful anymore. So things like that, those are essential loads. And so once you figure out what those are, people will build and pull those out of their breaker box and create a second breaker box where when you go into phase 2 here, you're going to have a battery backup to run those essential loads. And then my suggestion is not only do they run the essential loads, but you also use that to offset some of your electric bill and save money in the meantime. And it serves two purposes. One, as we talked about before, if you're not using it It's probably not going to work when you need it. That's the really important thing for you to learn about solar. And a perfect example of this is I had a boss many, many years ago who one day he said, get so-and-so to work on this. They use Excel every day. And I said, well, I know how to use Excel. And he says, yeah, but there's a difference between those people who do it every single day and those people who can do it. The people who do it every single day go click, click, and they're done. I would have taken 30 minutes to figure it out. I would have gotten it working. But he was absolutely right. I walk up to this person, click, click, and it was absolutely done. Same thing's true when a disaster hits or a critical load hits or something like that. If you're using it to save money, when that happens, it will work, or you'll know what the limits are. And that's probably one of the most important things about solar, is that living within the limits of what your solar system can do is the most difficult thing to know if you've never done it. One of the things that I tell people to do when they're building a solar system for their RV, and they're like, well, I want to go and live, off grid with this. And I'm like, great, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to an RV park. I want you to plug in, and I want you to use nothing except the devices you say you can live with, that they're only ones that you can live with. And I want you to put a meter, I want you to check the meter when you get there, and I want you to check the meter when you leave. Find out how much you're actually using, and really, not one day. You're telling me you want to boondock for a week. I want you to live like that for a week. If you can boondock like that for a week, then you want to see, and half the time, more than half the time, those people come back and say, yeah, I can live without this, but it sure would be nice to be able to turn the coffee pot on once in the morning and make hot coffee. Or it sure would be nice to, every 3 or 4 days, run the hot water heater, or do this or do that if I had enough solar, or maybe I could add some temporary panels to supply enough power to do this or to do that. That's one of those things that if you're doing it every day, you have that experience and you understand it. So that's the second way to save power, is essential loads. It is a much smaller system, and it is very good for running much larger than level one. Level one, you're talking about running a TV, you're talking about maybe a refrigerator or something like that, which Martinez is talking, that's what he's looking at, a refrigerator type thing. Though that's perfect for the very first system. And then you graduate into, well, then I can run essential loads in my house, and when the power goes out or when you have a hurricane or something, you still have the lights, you still have your ceiling fan, you still have an air conditioner emergency, mini split in your bedroom or something, so that that you still have your medical supplies. But you have them in a way that makes it natural. You can still go to the bathroom. You still have your well pump so you can use your toilet. I have city water here, but when I installed the city water, I kept the well pump. And I kept all the well intact, and I just have a valve outside where I switch from well water to city water. Great having the city water. Their softener's cheaper. Everything works. It is wonderful when it works. But when there's a hurricane or when there's a disaster or something like that, and all of a sudden everyone else is having problems with that, I just flip the solar on the well pump. The well pump is always there. It always runs, and I go out every month and test it. So that's something that for level 2, that's what I'm suggesting. Essential loads, lights, fridge, internet, small appliances, blenders, things like that just, freezer, refrigerator, things like that make it where you could outlive a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5-day outage without critical problems in your life. All right, then the rest of the year you get to use it to save money. That's the most important part, is use it to save money, figure out a way to make that part of it work. And that way, when you do need it the other way, it's there. All right, let's look at the next one, which is level 3. Level 3 is what I call a whole home support. This is where, you're going to scale up your inverter, you're going to scale up your batteries. You're going to do, true load shifting of your entire house. And you may do load shifting, especially for you in California or anyone in New York or New Jersey or any of the other numerous places where they have these astronomical electric fees during premium time. Imagine you have a battery system and a solar system that's big enough to run your entire house for that 3-hour or 4-hour window in the morning. And then again for that 3-hour or 4-hour window at night where they're charging you 3 to 4 times the electricity. You could actually take from the grid during those low rate times in the middle of the night, charge your batteries, or use solar during the day to charge your batteries, and then run those devices when the price is very high off of your solar system. It doesn't have to run your system all the time, but in an emergency, it can run everything that you would need. In a normal day-to-day operation, you can save a ton of money by just blocking that 3-hour window in the morning and that 3-hour window at night, that's 6 hours a day, and using zero electricity. Zero out those 2 windows, and the amount of money you save is tremendous. Hey, NSB. Good to see you. How you doing tonight? That is whole home level 3 support. So you start off small, cheap, simple little system. You learn from it. That's level 1. You go to level 2, which is your essential loads. You learn to, you get all the things that you absolutely have to have in a disaster, and you can supplement some of your you're running those devices all the time so that you don't have to pay the electric bills on them, whether that's your lights and your fridge and your internet and small appliances and kitchen and dishwasher and washer, maybe not your dryer, but maybe. Then when you get into whole home, then you can start looking at hot water heaters and dryers and things like that. Just woke up from a nap. Well, look at you taking naps and everything. It's very warm out there today. I don't blame you for taking the nap. All right. Moving on then to, and that's whole home support. Then you have level 4, which is what I call complete off-grid. Now, what this really means off-grid is that you really don't actually need the grid. Now, there's 2 levels in my mind of off-grid. One is 99% of the time, or let's say 90% of the time, you're running off-grid. Your solar system is big enough to keep everything running, and it's big enough to run your refrigerator, it's big enough to run your hot water heater, your air conditioners, the whole bit, everything. Then it becomes a matter of how long can you go when the sun goes away. And the sun can go away for a variety of reasons depending upon where you live. Here, there could be a hurricane. There could be storms for 2 or 3 days. In Texas, you could have, they used to have 3, 4, 5 days of storms there. Or you might even have really bad, what am I trying to say? Mostly storms, or you might even have some bad tornadoes that knock some things out and tear some stuff up. And that's why you have to think about autonomy. If you're going to have a long-term outage where your solar system is your sole dependency, you have to come up with a couple of different things for this plan. One, never go without a backup plan, because if you are truly off-grid, that means that you are the only sole person responsible for providing that power. I would never go without a generator of some kind. As ugly and as nasty as they can be, you still want them as a backup source if you have no other backup source, especially in an emergency of of a full off-grid. Even if you have grid as backup normally, you still want to have a generator. And the simple case is even with a couple of days of autonomy, you can have a blizzard hit and knock out your solar for days on end where you can't get to it. You may go 3, 4, 5 days. And the question becomes is how big of a battery bank do you have to guarantee power? And guarantee is a very strong word. How big of a battery bank do you need to have power? Most of the time is pretty easy. How much do you have to have for reliable power? That one's pretty easy. How much do you have to guarantee that in the next year you need zero grid? That is a much more difficult question to answer, and it is a lot harder to prepare for. And that's what true off-grid really does. Most people don't understand that true off-grid means that it because the electric company spends so much in redundancies, we don't understand the cost of those redundancies of what does it take to have, if let's just run an example, 365 days a year, and maybe once a year you go more than 3 or 4 days without sun. That means that you're going to build a system that you only actually get to use its full capacity once or twice a year. That can be very cost not friendly, meaning you're going to buy a whole bunch of extra batteries so that on that one chance that the power's out for more than, let's say you have 5 days of autonomy, that one chance that it's out for more than 5 days that you can operate. Now, to me, the backup plan there would be buy the $800 generator and make sure that it's in operating order so that during those times I cover it with an $800 generator, not an extra $5,000 or $10,000 worth of batteries, unless you have a use for those batteries. If you have a use for those batteries and you can do dual usage, then that's where you really start to compile your savings with saving money with solar, is figuring out how to do that. If you're doing things like heating a pool or, have a large family with, have tons and tons and tons of hot water and that kind of stuff, you can find ways to use extra electricity. There is never going to be a time where you say, I just have too much power and I don't need any more ever. I don't know anyone that's done solar that says that. I've seen them say, okay, it's summertime, I have plenty of power here to waste, let's figure out what I'm going to use it on. But when winter comes and it's Christmas and they've got the stoves all turned on and the turkey in the oven and all that kind of stuff, and they're burning through that power like crazy and a snowstorm hits, that's when things change. All right, so let me talk a little bit about some of the things that you shouldn't do to save money. And one of them we just talked about, which the first one on my list is oversizing your system too early. Don't oversize it before you really realize how much power you really need. A lot of the times when a disaster happens, for me, I can easily determine what is important and what is not. If it's survival as opposed to convenience, there are a lot of things you can live without for survival that you can't live without for convenience. For example, you theoretically will stink if you go a week without a shower, but you won't die. So there is a big difference between having hot water and not having the ability to have hot water. In most solar cases, having it usually can happen pretty reliably. But in a disaster where everything else is critical, then having the ability to live without it is a possibility. There are other ways. You can boil water. You can do things like that to make it safe to drink and things like that. So there are other ways that you can, as a friend of mine once said to me, you can have a hobo bath as opposed to taking a shower. Things like that you can still do, and you can get away with your sanitary conditions and stuff. I'm not saying that you should plan on that. I'm saying there is a difference between disaster survival and convenience. And drawing that distinction sometimes is very hard for some people. Some people want to claim, you know, I have to have a shower every day or every other day or blah, blah, blah. And I'm here to tell you, you don't. There were hundreds of years before we had hot water heaters where people didn't take a shower every day and they still lived through it. Now, convenience-wise, please do have a shower every day. No problem there. Buy cheap, don't waste money on buying cheap components that are just going to cause you problems. When I first got into this, I bought all kinds of cheap components just to show it. And several of them ended up in these buckets like this where they're just fried and burnt out. And what it taught me, and I did it for the learning lesson because I was listening to that exact advice, and I went out and bought a bunch to prove it's right. And to be honest with you, there is not one single component that I have from those days that I still use that I bought in that kit. I bought breaker switches, I bought power cables, I bought connectors and fuse connectors, all kinds of stuff. Inverters, charge controllers, all of it. And all of it either broke and burned out or was so bad that I just sent it back and got it replaced before it was out of the thing. Most of it just flat don't work the way they claim it to work. And that's one of the things that oh my God, I love that idea. In July, my bill is always $800. Need to start now and try to be ready. Not sure which idea you were talking about, Martinez, but I'm glad I lit that fire. Glad I could help. Another thing to not do, and don't waste money, but at the same time, don't ignore wiring, safety, and system design. Wiring and safety are the number one. Bad connections is the number one mistake of new people into this thing. Every connection, every lug, every wire you hook up, every one of them needs to make sure that you have the right fuses on them to protect them. Just like in your house, the electrician cannot come out and put a wall plug without a breaker. They can't put the breaker is there to design to protect all those wires in your walls and keep you from burning your house down. Same thing's true with DIY. Don't take the shortcuts and don't waste money on things you don't need, but don't skip things that you do need. Don't chase YouTube builds without understanding your needs. There are 1,000 builds out on the internet, and all of them do very specific things for very specific peoples. Build yourself a very small starter system, understand what you need, and then get a system that really is designed to handle what you're looking for. It'll save you a ton of money when you buy the right components the first time, when you buy the right batteries the first time, when you go with the right voltage, you go with the right inverter, you go with the right charge controller. If you don't know what those are, then you need to find somebody who truly does and give you some real advice on which ones you do need based on what your needs are, or you need to do some more learning and build yourself a small system and get started before you get there. Yes, you definitely can, and that is why you see NSB. You definitely can tell the difference between a cheap charge controller versus a good one, and there is multiple reasons that you see the difference in the number of power that it puts out, the claims that it makes on the amount of power it can actually do. What it doesn't say is, it says I can do 100 amps. It didn't say I could do 100 amps without catching on fire. That's the problem with a lot of the cheap ones. Not to mention, a lot of them claim to be one type of charger and aren't that type of charger, and so on and so forth. Buying the right good equipment is very, very key of not wasting money. All right. Another thing not to waste money doing is make sure you're planning for the future. If you are building a big system and you're not building something just to get started with, it's just a toy to play with, to learn from. If you're building a home backup system or something like that, even if it's a critical loads, you should look at what is it going to take to make this a full system. What is it going to take to handle your goals for the next year or 2 years down the road? Because a lot of these batteries are coming with 8,000, 10,000, 12,000 cycle lives. And some of those are 15, 20, 30 years lifetime batteries. Those batteries are going to outlive us. Well, they're going to outlive me anyway. Well, maybe they won't. I hope they don't. But they're probably going to outlive me. What I don't want to do is buy one that I have to replace in 6 months because I didn't think about getting the right voltage or whatnot. One of the important things that came from last week's live stream, and it was Mike that brought it up, was making sure you're buying the right voltage battery the first time. If you're going to build a 12 volt system, understand the 12 volt system's limitations for the future. If you're going to build a 24 volt system, understand its limitations for the future. And if you're going to build a 48 volt system, buy 48 volt batteries, not 24 volts or 12 volts and then series them together. Yes, that works. I basically have a video coming out here in a couple of, maybe a week or two, depending on the schedule, that will show you how you can install a balancer to keep them in line and so on and so forth. But when you buy a 48 volt or a 24 volt system for a 48 volt or a 24 volt system's battery, you save the cost of buying all the extra balancing and the worrying about it and possibly replacing one of them because it isn't exactly the same as the other three. It will save you money in the long term. If you're looking for good advice on batteries, let me know. There's always good deals going on out there, and always look at my, you could always look at my build page here, which is, I've just included the QR code for it, but it's always at mattmansolar.com/start. And it'll show you all of the different equipment that I'm recommending and that I like, and the different batteries and the different specials that are out and all that kind of stuff. And there are 12 volt batteries, 24 volt batteries, and 48 volt batteries out there. And just because a battery claims it can run in parallel with other ones doesn't mean it's going to work as well. Batteries are fickle little things. There's a lot there to learn. Okay, next section. That's enough about how not to waste money. Let's talk about how to start the right way. Identify, other than phase one, build something that you can play with, test, and learn. But also start to think about identifying what your goal is. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to do backup for power? Are you trying to do saving money? Are you trying to do peak shaving? Are you trying to learn? Are you trying to back up just critical loads? Are you trying to avoid a disaster? Are you trying to do your whole house? Are you trying to zero your electric bill? Are you trying to build a cabin that don't have the access to the grid and that you need power so that when you're not there, the refrigerator doesn't conk out? What are you trying to accomplish? Because defining those goals and knowing what those goals are, the rest of it's all just a complicated math calculation. And the rest of it can all be done based on where you live, what you got, and all that kind of stuff. And it's pretty simple from that point. But really knowing what you want to do. And then, after you've thought about that, think about if you could do anything you want, what would you also add into that? In other words, most people say, oh, well, I need my refrigerator to run and I'd like to be able to charge my phones. And I'm like, okay, well, how about an air conditioner? Well, an air conditioner, I can live without the air conditioner. And the question is, would you want to? And if you wouldn't want to, make that part of your future plan. Think about it that way in phases so that you can say, okay, if I buy this system, can I expand it to do this also? Can I expand it to do the next level after that? Can I expand it to the next level after that? Because it may save you from buying 2 or 3 different levels of equipment. Pick one load and target that first, which we've talked about. You can also build a simple system that you can expand, and we've talked about that. These are very repetitive points in my notes here. And then you can learn from real usage by scaling. This will, in the long run, it will save you money. There might be some learning going on, but the nice thing is you'll be learning with little, small, cheap components as opposed to trying to go straight to a big house component. If you want to go straight to a house component, make sure you get somebody that knows what they're doing to review your plans, to look at them, and to let you know if you've got any mistakes in them. All right. let's talk about real world advice. What I have learned from actual doing installations and having done tons and tons and tons of them at this point is that nothing goes as planned, ever. The wire don't work the way you want it to. It don't bend the way you want it to. It doesn't clamp the way you want it to. The panels don't fit the way you think they would. The charge controller doesn't fit in the spot you thought. The connector has been in that spot for 100 years, but the version that you ordered isn't. Once you put a clamp on the exit tubes or something, the metal conduit doesn't lay flat against the wall the way you thought. Now this wire can't run behind it or in with it or what. There is always something. Be flexible. Understand that actual installs require you to stop and replan sometimes. Sometimes meaning all the time. And it's something that you should definitely consider and look at and plan for. And a lot of the times the way you can plan for it is a lot of people will lay everything out inch by inch. And a lot of the times if you ask yourself, okay, well, what if this don't work? What am I going to do? And that's really the question you should be asking yourself. Not so much that you want to have a backup plan for everything, but that at least so that you've thought about it so when it does happen, it doesn't catch you off guard and you get completely caught without any backup plan whatsoever. I'll give you an idea of what I mean. When I was building the coffee trailer for my wife, I knew that I needed 15 kilowatt hours to run for a whole day. But what I thought was small events that were 1 hour or 2 hours long that I could get away with just a 5 kilowatt battery, a standard 48 volt, 100 amp hour battery. And then I could run, get the equipment all warm while it's plugged into the big solar system at home, take her to the event, do an hour or two, turn around and come back home. And I wanted to reuse the batteries, so I pull them out, use them, in the shed or use them other places. Then when I had big events, I'd put them back in. And I don't want to be moving 100-pound batteries around all the time. So I was trying to be, okay, I'll just put one in there. And I got 5 kilowatt hours, and for a couple hours, I should be fine. What I didn't anticipate is when the inverters got hit with multiple pieces of equipment, they registered there's only 100 amp hours available, and they refused to operate. I had to have 2 batteries in that system, which completely changed my plan. It wasn't the end of the world. I was going to have 3 to 4 batteries in there anyway, but what it did tell me is that I can't run the system with one single battery in the big mode that I want it to. I have to have 2 or 3, 2 to operate the equipment the way I want it to, 3 or 4 to operate for the length of time that I need it to for a real size event. So that's just one of the things that you don't learn until you get into it. Plan on things going wrong, be prepared to ad-lib a little bit, change things around a little bit, and figure out how you can deal with those items without getting frustrated. And that's where a lot of people come up short. They get frustrated, they get angry, they don't want to do that, they don't want to change. I'm telling you right now, it's going to change. So just make it part of your plan. Deal with it as a challenge and work your way through it. All right. Let's talk about mistakes that were made early on. The one that always haunts me, and it's kind of embarrassing to say this, I bought wire 3 times before I got it right. When you are new, you see, oh, look at that great price, and you order it and you get it, and it's freaking copper clad. It's not even copper wire. It's aluminum wire that's copper clad. So I'm like, okay, I order it again. This time's a lot more pricey. Order it, get it in, and I'm not paying attention. Instead of ordering one odd, I ordered something else. I don't even remember what it was. Wrong size. So I had to order it a third time. The third time I just was numb to it. I just did it. I didn't pay attention to the price. But those type of mistakes, they happen to us all. I've used some substandard components in test systems and stuff like that, and they don't work. I ordered charge controllers that simply weren't as they are advertised. Buying cheap components, trying to save a buck here or there. It happens to us all, but the worst one, the absolute worst one, is I have a Victron 100/20 charge controller that I ruined. And how did I ruin it? Because I didn't follow my own advice. I didn't go back and check every connection before I turned it on. I turned it on and I left it running all day, and one of those connections I didn't tighten down and it fried it. And I lived with that stupid charge controller until last week when I finally got rid of it because it was acting up too much and I couldn't get it to operate properly. So I had to replace it with a new one. Checking all of your connections and stuff, ordering the wrong wires, getting the tools that don't do what you think, ordering things that you shouldn't, that you don't really need, that you think are cool and you're going to have. Sadly, I've done them all. It sucks because it's a big waste of money, but there is no way around it unless you really get some good advice on things that you do want and things that you don't want. Tools are probably the worst suck of unnecessary stuff that you don't really need. There are a few basic tools that you absolutely have to have. And maybe I'll do another live stream on tools in the next coming weeks on these are the tools you really do need. These are the tools that are cool, but they're a complete waste of money because there are several of them that are just cool, but they're a waste of money. And there's a couple of others that you absolutely have to have. You are not going to get along without it. But we'll look at that. But the mistakes, they happen. Take them with a grain of salt. Do your homework early on and prevent them as much as possible. If you're looking at doing something and building a starter system and you want something where you don't have to worry about those risks, you can always build this keep a refrigerator running system. It comes with everything, even have a battery, a cabling kit that you can order. I build all the wires, I crimp them all, I label them all, and I ship it directly to you. You don't have to do anything but follow the directions and build your system right off from scratch. It'll get you into it as best as possible. All right. Why DIY solar beats pre-built systems for flexibility? The fact is that your life is ever changing, and you can buy one of those power stations, and the equivalent power station to that system right there is about $3,500. If you want convenience, you want reliability, you don't want to mess with building it, you have no interest in doing DIY, by all means buy one. They're going to charge you a premium for it. That's great. It's fine. I don't have a problem. I have no qualms with that. Good backup power stations are great for certain things. But if you want to do it cheaper, if you want to be building your own, if you're looking at doing something bigger in the future, if you're looking to understand solar enough so that you can buy a system for your house and not be completely in the blind when you actually sign that contract for $50,000 or $60,000, then building your own and learning from it is probably one of the most important things you can do. When a solar generator makes sense, as we just discussed, it makes sense when you don't want anything to do with DIY, when you just want to use it. They have some really cool solar generators these days where they're putting them all in nice kits for you. They're building everything and you do nothing but plug them in. Where it don't make sense is if you ever want to expand it, if you ever want it to be bigger, or you ever want to save some real money, the payback on some of those is ferocious because the cost is so much higher. But I will be the first to tell you, for me, solar's not only about saving money. Today's episode, that's what it's about, so I bring it up. But for a lot of times, it's more about the independence, the freedom from worrying about a hurricane, to being able to take my damn RV and go park down somewhere on a beach and not worry about having electrical because I have 3,700 watts of solar on the roof and batteries in my thing that allows me to run everything and still sleep with my air conditioner on comfortably and have hot water if I wanted. All right. That said, you can do that with a solar generator, but it will cost you a fortune to do so because they're going to charge you a premium for doing all that together and making it that simple to use. All right. Going back to how I think long-term about energy independence. Energy independence for me is, I think that the world with electricity is going to continue to deteriorate. The cost is going to continue to go up. The grid is going to continue to get less and less reliable as we become more and more dependent upon all these electrical things that we have in our life. Whether those are EVs, whether they are every single device in your house. If you look at the consumption of houses when they first started building them, they had 100 amp connections to those homes. And every house had, practically every house, and then you had occasionally one that would have a 200 amp thing. Do you know that 200 amps is the minimum connection to the grid they install now? They don't even make 100 amp installations because our energy demands have gotten so high. They have 400 amp connections now for large houses and 200 for normal houses. That is double the size that it used to be a short 20 years ago. So as it continues and the demands continue and the cost continues to rise, it only makes sense that the technology is going to get better, and those of us that are leading it are going to be driving the cars and driving the electronic devices the way we want to and being able to survive when the cost starts to go up. Even if it's nothing more than simply supplementing it. For me, energy independence, I would like nothing more than the city to go away and leave me alone and tell me I have to be 100% off grid. But do you know today that it is so restrictive and some of these laws are so restrictive that you can't even have a house that is considered off grid in city limits unless you have an electric hookup. Even if you have a solar system that completely can power it, you can't have the system. Why? Because they consider it essential for living there. They won't give you a certificate of occupancy. Strange as it is, that's the way it is. I think that will change over the next 20 years. I think it will change dramatically. That's why I'm involved in it. That's why I want to teach people to use solar and not use it because it's good for the environment or you know, this or that. Use it because I like the independence from the world. I like to have the reliability of the hurricane hits, and I can still be self-reliant. I can still keep my refrigerator on. I can still operate my air conditioner. I can still sleep in some comfort. I don't have to worry about drinking dirty water or dying because I didn't have, you know, a way to take care of myself. So for me, that's what it's all about. It's all about that, and it's all about teaching other people the same thing. That's why I do it. That's why I have live streams. That's why I'm here, is to talk with you guys and to learn other guys from you guys. Another advantage is prepaying for power at today's rates by going solar. Absolutely. Absolutely 100%. You are basically prepaying for power at today's rates by going solar. No question at all. Mike hit the nail on the head right there. It seems, at some corners, it seems really expensive. But if you do solar right, the payback is not near as bad as some of these solar companies make it sound. Some of them make it sound like They're going to come in, they're going to install this system, it's going to pay itself back in no time, and it's going to run for 100 years without any interference and any problems. In my opinion, these solar companies, these installation companies are doing more damage than more harm and damage to the industry than anyone else. They are causing more problems. Yes, they're putting solar panels up all over the place, but I can tell you, I've interviewed tons of people. And if you've bought a solar system and you want to be interviewed and tell your story, go to mattmansolar.com and fill out a request to be interviewed. I'd be glad to talk with you about it, because when I interview people, most of them are not happy. Most of them were lied to one way or another, or told something, or led to believe, or things were excluded. Wait till you see this interview coming out from a gentleman I interviewed last week, Dick. He was just the nicest old guy, but he had the absolute worst scenario I've ever heard from a home installation. It was terrible. Karen's that I did back a few months ago was bad. My own was pretty bad, but this guy was just absolutely terrible. NSB says, I am just getting to where I'm producing about half of what I normally use per day. That's good. That's a great start. And half is probably enough. In a real disaster, you could probably make do. That's what's important. That's what's important to me. Knowing the next hurricane, that after the next hurricane, last hurricane that knocked out the power for 10 days, well, the last bad one, I should say. After about 3 or 4 days, nobody had gas except me. And the only reason I had gas is because I had a food trailer and I had just filled up the gas for an entire show, and I had 40 gallons of gasoline sitting there, and I got very lucky, and I had 300 pounds of ice. And so we ran our generator, and everyone else has started shutting off after about 3 days, because nobody could get, when a hurricane comes, what a lot of people don't realize is that when the power goes out and all your cell towers and your cable modems and all of that stuff, they work for the first couple of days. And then the battery backouts and the cell towers go out, and the battery backouts and the cable company goes out, and all of it goes dark. We had no cell phones, we had no internet, we had nothing except my generator and a couple of lights. Yeah, we could charge our phone. Didn't do a damn bit of good because there was nothing for the phone to connect to. Nowadays, Elon would run some satellites over and give us internet access, or at least give us cell phone service. But then it didn't happen. Where the hell was I? Okay, so DIY beats solar for the fact that it has the flexibility. It allows you to expand, allows you to get bigger, allows you to expand into the next level of your system without spending an exorbitant amount. A lot of the solar stations, they'll do it, but you're going to pay for it. And a lot of them have problems expanding and getting extra panels and solar and batteries. They're very expensive. And so you end up with a lot of those issues. A DIY system, you don't end up with a lot of those. You want more charging capacity, you get another charge controller, you put in some more panels. It's as simple as that usually, in most cases, as long as you've planned it a little bit. When does solar generator does make sense? I think we talked about that. Solar generator makes sense when you don't want to mess with anything DIY. You just want a backup for a PAPS machine and nothing more, and that's all you're interested in. How to think about long-term energy independence, how I think about that was the one I was on. Okay. At this point, I have exhausted my list. I've gone through everything I have here. I think what I've talked about can apply to homeowners, to RV owners, to beginners, to preppers, to practically everybody has an opportunity to save money with solar if it's done right. If you just go to a solar company and you have them install some big fancy system on your house, yes, you will shave some money off your bill, but all that money is going towards either a loan or towards what you paid them to install it, and you're not going to get it back with a very reasonable thing. Also, the expectations that they have a lot of the times are completely out of control. So make sure you pay attention to that. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to go hunt down a link real quick. I knew I needed it, and I completely forgot about it. This QR code is for, where is it? Here it is. I can't believe I don't have this in here. Okay. I'll give you a couple of QR codes here. I'm going to start with this one. This is an in-home review. This has been one of my most popular products lately. I come out to on-site. Always you can do a one-on-one online call. It's a lot less expensive. You can book those in hours at a time. But this in-home has been the most popular lately. I come out, I look at your system. We go through it step by step. I review everything. I make a bunch of suggestions on things that you can fix, things you can make better. Some of them we can do instantly if they're configurations. Some of them you have to build a bigger plan, and usually you come off with a better system. We go through safety issues. We go through capability issues. We figure out what you're doing that if you problems that you have, we walk through them and understand what the solutions for them can be. This has been by far the absolute most popular thing. I spend a couple of hours there. The first level is we just go through it by, that. The second level is a full written report when we're done, and I make full suggestions and everything like that. The first one has been the most popular, but some people like to have that physical report that they can take to some company to get some of these upgrades done. Anyway, hopefully, I don't think I've left anything outstanding. Also, you have the link on here for one-on-ones if you wanted to book a one-on-one and go over something. I use these a lot of times to talk with people about systems they're having installed in their house. They get a contract from a solar company. These companies, they push, and they try to get you to sign it as quickly as possible. And then usually the installation is as soon as they can get to it. They don't want you backing out of anything. My suggestion is have them give it to you in writing, everything that they're going to do, and then hire someone to review it that's not going to be impacted by what they're doing. Find out what they can do. A lot of them avoid the off-grid type things. They avoid the battery solutions. They avoid the more complicated pieces because that's not where the money is. The money is in getting the contract to install the panels on your roof, slap an inverter, or sometimes not even that, do some interconnects on the side of your house and leave you with the bucket. Most of them go out of business within a few years, so their warranties aren't worth anything, but these are the type of things that we go through on the one-on-ones. So hopefully those will help you guys. I don't think I got a couple of questions here, so let's do... I don't go with DIY stuff because I am able to use 0% 24 months financing with my home improvement credit card. I didn't go with DIY stuff because I was able to use 0% 24-month financing on my home improvement credit card. That's great, yes. And for most people that are, if you're paying for it or something like that, there's nothing wrong with getting a company to do installation and not going with DIY. Please don't misinterpret me there. What I'm saying is getting a solar system, I really relate to a 16-year-old girl going and buying a car. Most people know about the same amount about that car as that 16-year-old. They know about the same about their DIY solar, or they know about their solar system as much as that 16-year-old girl buying a car. That salesman knows exactly what to sell her to make the most money, what deals to give her, what policies to sell her, what things, how to talk to her, how to talk about how much her payments are going to be, not how much is she actually loaning, what her interest rates are, all the financing. All they're interested in is making money. And the same thing's true. Unfortunately, the same thing's been true with the solar industry, and it's getting worse and not better. So I am all for not financing a solar system, buying it outright, and if you do, making sure that you don't believe it. But make sure you have somebody that understands what you're buying, tell you what it is, and give you some suggestions on things that you could make it better too. That's kind of the point that I'm making there. But great point, Uno. I know I paid more, but being able to pay over time instead of upfront made it easier. And it does. And when it's 0% financing, I think I've got a 0.49% loan on mine. One of the big caveats, and I'll tell you one of the big caveats to buying it with financing, if you buy it the way you did, it's your home improvement card, I think is what you said, right? Which is here. I use 24-month financing with my home improvement credit card. That's perfectly fine because that is technically to a mortgage company when you go to sell your house. That is technically your debt and it's unrelated to the house. When a finance company when you go to sell your house, and a lot of people will say, yeah, the loans are assumable, and these are some of the lies that I've heard from people that have got these systems installed, and unfortunately, most of them are true. The salesman may stretch it a bit and say, yeah, but they're assumable, and they are assumable. And the salesman will tell you, oh, it's no big deal. They just fill out a form and it becomes their loan and everything's great. And it does. Here's the catch. If you're going to buy a house and the house is $200,000, in order for them to buy the house and get a mortgage, the house has to appraise for $200,000. The problem is they can't assume a solar loan for $30,000 unless it comes off of that $200,000. That means that the house has to appraise for $230,000, or they have to buy it for $170,000 so that it appraises at $200,000. That's kind of the catch. The mortgage company gives you no equity in the solar system that's financed because it is still financed and you don't own it. Yet they give you no credit for it, the value added to the house either, or that the loan is assumable either. So it's not like a roof loan or something like that where it's part of the equity of the house. Hey, you've got a new roof, we're going to increase the value of the house. Nope, they won't increase the value of the house because the solar system's not paid for, yet you don't get a credit for the payment and it has to be part of the value of the house either way. So you take a double whammy. So that $30,000 loan you have on your solar costs you $60,000 when you go to sell your house. And I cannot tell you how difficult it is to explain to someone, I want to sell you my house for $200,000. And you're going to get it a zero electric bill. See, look, my electric bill's zero. You're going to get it a zero electric bill forever going forward. But you have to pay this $200 payment over here on this loan for the next 20 years for the solar panels. So your electric bill is never going to go over $200. Now, if you didn't have solar, this bill would cost you $500. But because you do, it's only $200 because you just got to pay for the panels. It is a hard sell. People don't look at future savings. They look at current month savings and take it from someone who knows that has tried to sell a house with a solar panel loan on it. They do not. There's some people that see it, but the mortgage companies are unwilling to think about it. The loan has to be paid when the house transfers, or it has to appraise to accept it as a second loan. That is a very, very, very difficult thing to make homes. All of what they said technically is true. It is assumable. It is easy to get approval to get it assumed. It will transfer to the new owners. What they left out is the mortgage company don't give a damn. It's going to come off the value of the house until it's completely paid. Doesn't matter how much it's worth, doesn't matter what value it is, it doesn't matter how many electric bills it gets rid of, it doesn't matter how much money they're going to save on their electric bill. None of that matters. What matters is you can't sell the house because no one's willing to do it. Now, if you find somebody who's willing to sell it, of course, there's an exception to every rule. There's definitely exceptions to that rule. Please don't take it as there's absolutely no way to make it happen, because there is a way to make it happen. But it makes it enormously more difficult to sell your house. Now, there are other solar systems. That's you finance and you own it. There are other solar systems that if you finance a leased system, you are totally screwed, because you don't own the solar system, you will never own the solar system, and your obligation to that solar company is for X number of years, and they can also assume that obligation, but nobody wants to, and none of them are willing to do with it, and the mortgage company will tell you, get it taken off. And getting backed out of that will cost you thousands of thousands if the option even exists. That's how we got cheap panels. The new buyers wanted them removed. Yep, that is exactly how we get cheap panels. Either the new buyers wanted them removed, or the old sellers wanted them removed, or somebody was going to have to get a new roof and they didn't want to put the old panels back up. They decided to put new panels in their place. And that's how you find cheap used panels. Either that or a solar farm gets closed down. That is exactly right, NSB. You got it. You've learned the Matt algorithm of how to find cheap solar panels, and Facebook Marketplace is the key for that at this point. I tell you what, they are everywhere. I seen a guy the other day, I think it was a Facebook post. He posted a picture of a solar farm field, and they had taken all these old panels down, and there were stacks of them and stacks of them. And he says, the guy told me I could take as many as I want. What should I do now? They're giving them away. Finding them is hard, but they're giving them away. Well, I've got a backyard full of them, so I know. All right, guys. Laugh, but it's true. It's so true. NSB, he knows it. Yeah, I'm a marketplace ninja. You know, it used to be Craigslist. Believe it or not, my first purchase of solar panels was off of Craigslist. And I think back to those days. Now you go out on Craigslist and it ain't nothing but a bunch of spam and crap and people trying to rip you off and promise you the stars so they can, I don't even know what they're after half of the time, what they think they're going to get from you. It's just the most ridiculous thing. Anyway, let's see where we are here. All right. I think that's it for the night. Unless somebody's got something they want to talk about, I'll be glad to talk about anything else. I'm in no hurry to go anywhere. Actually, you know what? I think I may have another set of... I thought I had another set of notes here. I went through everything. I'm done. I'm done. So how is everybody? What are you guys up to these days? All right, so... Oh, you know what? I can show you guys this. This is that page I was telling you about, the solar inspection review. This is one of my largest selling items right now. I come into your house, I do a 2 to 3 hour on-site review, give you some recommendations, check for safety, efficiency, that kind of stuff. This is, and I usually do it within 50 miles, but I also do it within 50 miles of any of the shows I'm at. I'm up in north of Orlando this week at a mall. I don't remember the name of the mall. Could probably find out. So anywhere in the Orlando area, this week would be a good one if you're looking for a review of that. But that's just kind of what I do. There's a whole bunch of information on this page about it, and what I do, what it looks like, different packages, what they really cost. And both of these have $100 off right now because of the show pricing. But But figured I'd share that with you guys. I don't know if we've got anything else. Thank you guys for coming. Oh, I do want to talk about a little bit about subscribers. Where are we at? We are at, holy crap, we are at 22,645 subscribers. You guys are awesome. I don't have my fireworks working, so we'll just make our own fireworks and confetti this week. Anyway, 22,000. You guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It is wonderful every week. It's great to see every week everyone show up here and chat and talk, and we have fun. And I think I'm gonna maybe next week I'll do something on tools. Maybe the week after or something like that. We'll figure it out. I'll come up with something. I'm going to be at a show this weekend and this coming weekend, and then Monday is going to be like a last minute thing. So maybe tools isn't good for a last minute thing because I'll have just gotten back in the RV and I don't want to spend a lot of time finding a bunch of tools and digging them up, showing them. So maybe the week after next we'll do tools. Go through some of the tools that are really cool to have, but are really a big waste of money. Some of the cool tools that you use that are expensive that you don't necessarily need, and then we'll go through the absolute essentials. The ones you do need, the ones you have to have, and the ones that are helpful. Anyway, I'm going to call it quits. I think it was wonderful to have everybody here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for subscribing. We've got some really cool videos coming out here soon. Over the next couple of days, tomorrow morning, we have the new Watt Cycle 314 amp hour wall mount battery. It's fantastic. That thing is just killer. I have been working it to death in the solar shed. As a matter of fact, it's probably still working right now. Let's go take a look. Maybe it shut down already. Maybe it didn't. For those of you, you know what, we should do one on automation too, on some automation and some home assistant and solar assistant. I've got some requests for that. Yep, it's still running the bit miner. Oh, it's down to 39%. I don't know how long it's been running. I had no sun today. No noticeable sun. Well, we got 26 kilowatt hours. I'm wrong. We did get some sun. So, all right then. But that's how it goes. Got a bad sensor there. Oh, you know what? That's the Watt Cycle Bluetooth sensor. Oh, and that's an eco-worthy one. So it looks like the Bluetooth is acting up on the Raspberry Pi. Okay, no big deal. All right then, guys. Oh, I left the light on out there. Let's turn that off. Anyway, thank you guys for coming. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking. Make sure you like the live stream. I don't know, for those of you who've been with me for a while, tell me what you think of the new live stream software. I've been using it now for, this is my third week in a row. I like it. I officially switched this week or last week. I went ahead and got a subscription on it and everything. I like it a lot better than what I was using. OSB was wonderful, but I tell you what, it just had its little quirks, and everything was always a fight to get it to work. The only thing I miss is having multiple cameras. I do want to try that while I got you guys online here. I'm going to try switching my camera and see if I can actually do it while, you know, the problem I was having is it's a really expensive upgrade to change cameras. And so, oh, look at that. I can change cameras right while I'm live. Okay, so that means I can still do whiteboarding and stuff like that. That's wonderful. And so that's my laptop camera, and this is my normal camera. Okay, so that's wonderful. Also, I've added the vertical live stream and the horizontal, so I don't know if everyone is familiar with that. We did that, so that's kind of nice. It allows those that are watching me vertical to go ahead and there are 2 live streams listed out there. One is vertical, one is horizontal. So if you're watching it on the vertical and you're seeing the horizontal, if you can see that piano and you're watching it vertical, that piano, and you're watching it vertical On the normal one, you wouldn't be able to see that. So on the normal vertical, and it's a little bit better image of it, and a little closer picture. It does take the full screen and everything. So for those of you who have been with me for a while, let me know what you think. Mike, thank you for showing up also. I appreciate you. And maybe you can come back and do tools with me if you're interested. We'll do that here in a couple weeks if you want. I'd love to hear your, you being a mechanic or doing a lot of automobile repairs and stuff. I'd love to hear the tools you use as opposed to the ones that I use, coming from a completely different background. So anyway, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next week when we will do something. I don't know what it is. Got great videos coming out this week also. The batteries tomorrow, 3 days from now is the solar security, a solar camera that I installed. And then 2 days after that, on the 9th, is the parallel installation of the 300 EHV. And then I've got a couple more after that I have got to finish the editing and stuff on. So great lineup. And for all of you members who have early access, thank you for your membership. And you can go ahead and watch those 3 are already out there for you guys. Talk to you later, guys. Have a good one. See you next week. Bye.